Coming up on AI in the classroom,
We will talk about 3 things you can do with AI.
hi, my name is Guy Trainin and I'm a professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
I'm Crystal Liu. I'm the World Language Specialist at Nebraska Department of Education.
And today we want to say, if you're new to using AI, at least as a teacher, here are 3 things we suggest you do just to get to understand what AI can do and how it can help.
Yes.
So let's start with the first one.
We can maybe put in an assignment so that we can explore how AI can help you with assignment. And it also helps AI to understand who you are as a teacher.
And the second thing is, what we're saying is you already have assignments that you've designed many times, you've used it in your classes. Now what we're saying is experience it from the direction of a student that is saying, I have an assignment and I'm going to put it to AI. Now, do we want our students to always put it in AI? Not necessarily. We talked in a previous one to say when they're novices, really AI is not going to help them that much because they're too much of a beginner to really be able to lean. In the next one of the next ones, we'll talk about chatbots and how they can help. But right now we're saying, what happens if our students have access to AI? I have an assignment. I'm just copying the assignment, drop it into ChatGPT. Don't tell ChatGPT anything else. Just drop the assignment and maybe add the language if it's not written there. So you'll know that it's in French or in Spanish or in Mandarin or, Arabic or whatever language you're teaching, and see what comes out. Because what I think is going to happen is you start realizing what is the experience on the other side, especially when you're giving homework. So if you're sending kids home, if they are lost, they are likely to start using AI. Why? Because it's there, because they have access, and because you're not there to tell them not to, even if you think it's a bad idea. You may like AI, you may hate AI. That's the reality we're living with. So it is really instructive to see what the machine creates, because that'll tell you, is this an assignment that AI can't really help with, or is this an assignment where AI can do a better job than most of my students, and I'm starting to worry about how to structure it. So that's for me, that's the first thing I ask people to do, because it gives, if you've never worked with AI and you're like, I don't know if it'll even be helpful and it'll even be able to do the work, try it out. And by the way, if you have an assignment or piece of paper, you can actually take a picture and upload that picture. You don't actually have to copy and paste. You can just bring the picture in.
Yeah.
Easy. Try that. What's the second thing that we're trying to do?
We can use, if you already have an assignment, we need to grade them. So ask AI to create a rubric for your assignment. You can upload your assignment and ask AI create a rubric to evaluate student proficiency levels and, the skills or whatever you are looking for, and AI will create for it. And you can see how it generates and whether it meets your expectation. You can make changes and whatever. And remember, when you put it in, you have to be specific about your language and student proficiency level. That's very important.
So we have an example that you created actually, and it goes like this. Here it goes, I am a Spanish teacher. You immediately say the language. That is incredibly useful. The fact that you're a teacher is also important. It tells the AI, the generative AI, where you are in all of this, and it knows how to treat it. And then we included location. The important thing here is actually that it's high school, because there's a big difference between middle school and high school that I just learned.
Yes. And also, we want AI to know where you are located, because like Omaha Central or Lincoln or whatever, because that helps AI understand what standards you are using.
Yes, and you can actually say that you want to use the standards, but you don't have to, because right now we're giving you just a general framework. If you want to attach it to standards, you can include the standards. You can upload the standards as a file and then say use these, or you can ask it to use some known standards. For example, in science, we talk about next generation science standards. In language arts, we often talk about Common Core or the state standards. What do we use in world language?
In world language, we use ACT4 in the ACTFL proficiency guideline, but also in different states, we have different standards. Like in Nebraska, we have Nebraska standards, and also we want to be specific. Now we're using 2019 standards, and next year we will be using 2026 standards.
So be specific, but also remember, and this is important, this is your first time with AI. You've got to check that it's actually accurate. And so your knowledge of the standards, if you're asking to use the standards, is really important because sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it makes things up. That's what we call hallucinations. So if you do this, you can see that we also ask for a specific task. So describe what the task is. In this case, we said, first we talked about the students, their level 1 or 2. And then we said, please create a rubric to assess students' speaking proficiency. The machine will not assess. This is just creating the rubric at the novice high level and on the topic of daily lives. The more specific you are with AI, the better the results would be.
Yes.
And what I love is right after the prompt, when we send it in, you get a response of what the machine is thinking about,
Yes.
right? And so there are 3 sentences there, and you can read those. It basically says, I understand what you're looking for. And now you can see how it aligned everything. And this is without standards. If you actually say align it with the standards, we would most likely get another column that says here are the standards. But you can see that there's a rubric that has 4 features: comprehensibility, language control, vocabulary use, and task completion. And then it's got from needs support all the way to exceeds expectation. And so it's a quick way to create rubrics. Now, if you have established rubrics, you don't have to change them. But this is, again, we're saying this is just do this to see what it can do and how it can be helpful. Because when you're playing, you're also finding out when it isn't helpful. And that's just as important. Because sometimes I try to use it in specific ways, especially to create presentations, and I find it lacking every time. So part of the experimentation that we're encouraging here is to try it out and see also what the boundaries are. Okay, so let's talk about the third thing. What is the third thing we really say you should be doing?
Yeah, I would suggest explore with your colleagues and start with something that is manageable for you. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, and what we're saying is you have colleagues around you, and you probably have some colleagues that have tried AI. So you've got a colleague who's really tech happy. He's probably, or she, have been playing with AI for a while. Ask them what they're doing. Ask them what works. If you don't have colleagues right around you, Nebraska Department of Education, there's great expertise there. And of course, go to conferences, and at conferences, in the conferences I've been going to, half of the sessions are about AI in one way or another. It's true that some of my conferences are all about technology, but even when I go to AECT, for example, which is all about teacher education,
Yes.
half the sessions were about AI. And so lots of opportunities to learn from colleagues, and you want to talk to the people who are doing it on the ground. I mean, we are talking about this, and we're from the Department
Yes.
of Education and from the university, but what we're telling you is based on what we're seeing in classrooms and what we're seeing people use. So we're providing that information, but again, so the 3 things we want you to do is the first one is put one of your assignments in and see what it does. The second one would be?
Maybe create a rubric. That's something easier and also help you understand how AI can help you with the work. And maybe there should be something, and also this will help you to prompt better. Maybe the rubric is missing something, or it's too specific, or in a wrong scale, like in some schools it's 1 to 5. You can ask AI, okay, you are providing 1 to 4, change it to 1 to 5 or whatever. You know, these are easy to fix problems.
And the third thing is talk to your colleagues. Go to the people who are using AI, find out what they're doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them. Talk to other world language teachers, see what they're doing. And that's it for this time. We'll see you next time on AI in the Classroom.